Welcome to Lesson 9 of Singularity Sanctuary's Ethics and Technology course, Entrepreneurship, Power, Responsibility, and the Human Future. Up to this point in our course, we've talked about economics, work, education, housing, and artificial intelligence. We've explored how technology reshapes human life and how human values shape what technology becomes. In this lesson, we'll reflect together on a group that stands at the center of many of those other areas: entrepreneurs, founders, innovators, and all those responsible for creating and providing our technologies, the people who take ideas and turn them into systems that can improve our lives. In earlier centuries, it took generations for new ideas to reshape society. Today, a small team in a garage, a dorm room, or a shared workspace can build something that reaches millions of people in a matter of years or even months. This is both extraordinary and sobering. It means more than ever, the future depends on the ethical character and intentions of the people who build it. Nowadays, when we ask who most decides what the world we live in will look like, how we communicate, how we learn, how we work, shop, receive medical care, how our data is used, and how our attention is shaped, a reasonable answer is our entrepreneurs and the systems and technologies they create. Their innovations have become one of the primary forces shaping our economy, our society, and our lives, including what skills, knowledge, and tools we most need in order to thrive. And for that reason, entrepreneurship must fundamentally be an ethical undertaking. Unfortunately, entrepreneurs, along with their companies and inventions, are often the subjects of our collective fears and suspicions, instinctive responses to the exponential rate of change that we as creatures of habit are struggling to adapt to. But as I often say, corporations may not be persons, but they are owned by persons, occupied by persons, employ persons, and serve persons. In this sense, they are among the most human of endeavors. Certainly there have been many unethical actors in this arena. Think of Enron hiding debt, Bernie Madoff's $65 billion Ponzi scheme, WorldCom's fraudulent accounting, British Petroleum's Deepwater Horizon oil spill, Volkswagen's emissions cheating, and FTX's cryptocurrency collapse, to name but a few. The far-reaching harm caused by such incidents tends to skew our beliefs about all corporations and those who run them, leading us to see them as corrupt, greedy, and heartless people who care about nothing but money. That may be true of some, but I don't believe it is true of most. Why? Because I believe in the humanistic ethic, that impulse innate in all of us to look out for one another, to be kind to strangers, and to treat others as we wish to be treated. These are ancient, persistent, and universal moral sentiments. We don't always live up to them, but they endure. And that is why I believe in the fundamental goodness of humanity. The problem isn't that we don't want to be good, it's that too few of us have been taught what it means to be good. That is one of the purposes of this course. And when it comes to learning ethics, it turns out that today's entrepreneurs may actually be ahead of many others. Until relatively recently, business schools did not formally teach ethics. Students learned finance, strategy, and management, but not necessarily how these tools should be used responsibly. This began to change in the 1970s. Scholars such as Richard DeGeorge helped establish business ethics as a serious academic field, grounded not in public relations, but in genuine moral reasoning. For the first time, students were taught that some standards matter more than profit, that some values do not bend to convenience, and that power carries responsibility. By the 1980s and 1990s, hundreds of universities were offering courses in business ethics. Philosophers began teaching in business schools. Journals and professional societies emerged. In other words, we began intentionally forming the moral character of future business leaders. This may sound surprising because we mostly hear about scandals. We hear about Enron and BP and Volkswagen and all those others, but rarely about the good work most companies and entrepreneurs are doing. We hear little about the conscious capitalism movement, which seeks to create value for employees, customers, communities, and the environment, not just shareholders. We hear little about microfinance, which enables some of the world's poorest people to become entrepreneurs themselves. And we hear little about major corporations committing to net zero emissions and investing heavily in renewable energy. Companies like Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Meta, Nestle, Walmart, and Ford. Are any of them perfect? No more so than you and I. Enough said. The deeper point is this. Everything we do, including our businesses and our technologies, should ultimately serve human welfare and unlock human potential. This is the heart of the humanistic ethic. As John Mackey, founder of Whole Foods, once wrote, "We want to improve the health and well-being of everyone on the planet, and we can't fulfill this mission unless we are highly profitable. But businesses must not live just to make profits." That sentiment has its priorities straight, and I believe it reflects the outlook of many, perhaps most, good-hearted business leaders today. Most entrepreneurs don't enter the field to get rich. They enter it to solve a problem. In fact, that's what the French word entrepreneur originally meant, an adventurer on a quest. The entrepreneurial journey usually begins with a simple question: how do I fix this? Maybe it's something that wastes time, or excludes people, or causes suffering, or harms the environment, or simply makes life harder than it needs to be. But even with good intentions, competition and pressure can cause people to lose sight of their greater purpose. Investors want faster returns, competitors move in quickly, markets reward scale, attention becomes currency, growth becomes expectation. Gradually, almost unnoticed, the question shifts from are we helping people to how do we dominate the market? How do we maximize engagement? How do we increase valuation? No one wakes up one morning and decides to abandon their values. It happens slowly through small compromises, rationalizations, exhaustion, and fear of falling behind. It happens not because people are malicious, but because they are human. This is where the old adage about missing the forest for the trees becomes really helpful. We need ways to occasionally step back and remember what we're really about. The humanistic ethic is one perspective that offers this wider view. When you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, is what I'm doing still promoting human well-being and human dignity? Continue to measure revenue and growth. They matter a lot if you're going to be able to fulfill your greater purpose. But don't forget to also ask, are people better off because of what I'm accomplishing? Are they healthier? Is there less suffering? More opportunity? More dignity? These questions matter more than ever because today technology scales faster than ethics. A single design choice can affect millions overnight. A single mistake can spread globally. We no longer have the luxury of ethical afterthought. We need ethical foresight. And the good news is this. Despite the headlines, most entrepreneurs and business leaders are already trying to do the right thing. Often they simply need reminders of who they are and what they're here to do. So let me conclude by speaking directly to all the great adventurers working to meet humanity's deepest challenges. I believe in you. I believe in your goodness. And I am grateful for you. And I hope you never forget that your greatest success will not be measured merely by what you build, but by what you most care about and who you care for.